Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around we started off Planet of the Daleks. What was that about?
Well, it was pretty much anything except the Daleks.
Well,
like the last time, they just barely appeared in these first three episodes. But the Doctor and Jo land on a planet after the very bizarre ending of the Frontier in Space episodes. He sent a message to the Time Lords, but we haven't seen them, so we don't know if they're coming or not. They recognize that somebody else who's landed on the planet are not indigenous there, but they are Thals from Skaro, if I recall correctly.
yeah.
And they do understand that the Daleks are there, and there's some other kind of, horrible plants that are coating people in goo. Sorry, didn't meant to say the G word.
No.
Anyway, so I think the last cliffhanger was that the Doctor realized that there's literally like an army of thousands of Daleks that are about to be created.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out some way to prevent that.
Yeah, basically. So, as it turns out, the ending of Frontier in Space, that was the ending. Like, they never planned to do anything else with that story. And we kind of suspected, like, oh, well, was it because Roger Delgado died? But no, that's just how it was written originally. So,
and that's very weird because it did not conclude the story that we had invested 5 other episodes in.
yeah, I mean, like, I guess technically what it did finish was the Draconians and the humans, they knew they weren't attacking each other, so that war had ended. But what it really did feel like it was building up, like, okay, well, now we have to take this war to the Daleks, because they're the ones doing this. They're trying to start this war.
Yeah.
We want to find out why and stuff like that. So, yeah, and then we just get an unrelated episode about the Daleks. Like, these don't seem to be tied into that at all. Like, they're not making any plans or anything. I mean, I guess they have an army of 10,000 Daleks, but is that specifically to attack the humans and the Draconians? Don't know. So, but yeah, that's exactly how Frontier in Space was supposed to end.
Yeah.
And it's still, though, leaving it on the cliffhanger, the Doctor is injured and he's calling the Time Lords. Leaving that and just being like, well, the next writer can do with that what they will. And it's like, it's not a great thing to do to the next writer.
Yeah.
So, especially a writer like Terry Nation, who frankly doesn't care and will abandon that plot line as quick as he can. Someone actually mentioned that it's been since like season 3 since Terry Nation wrote for Doctor Who. Apparently when he submitted his scripts, they all had individual titles for the episodes, because that's how they did it back then. He didn't know that they dropped that at some point during the first Doctor's era. So, yeah, Terry Nation might be a bit behind on Doctor Who. So, and it kind of shows. Not that it's a bad script, but it's an old script. Which is weird. We're still, again, it's 1972 or 3. I guess it's 3 at this point. 1973. We're still talking about the third Doctor in classic Doctor Who, and we're sitting here like, this story seems old. It's not up to the standards of our modern day contemporary Doctor Who we're watching. So,
and if I may say one other thing that I'll need to drop a coin for. Although the title is good, Planet of the Daleks, you know what would have been better? Planet of 10,000 Daleks. I mean, just something like that, because every cheesy horror movie from the 50s and 60s and even into the early 70s would have overemphasized that. And I think if, the promo had said, coming up next week on Doctor Who, the Planet of 10,000 Daleks, they would have gotten incredible ratings. Because Planet of the Daleks is one thing. I mean, you go, okay, hey, the Daleks are coming back, we'll go watch them. But you've never seen 10,000 Daleks, and that would have gotten people's attention.
Well, it's also just the fact, and this is an incredible nitpick of the title. It's a fine title, but when you say Planet of the Daleks, I think Skaro, and this is not that.
Yeah.
This is not their planet. I mean, it's technically their planet, as in they conquered this planet, and it's theirs now, but those are just 2 minor nitpicks. It's a fine title. Look, it's a lot better than Frontier in Space.
Yeah.
I actually saw people trying to defend Frontier in Space. No, I'm sorry. I will put in a coin on your behalf because that's not a good title. Planet of the Daleks, pretty decent. So, although at this point I'm starting to lose focus on like what of the Daleks we're on. Like there have been so many that it's just like I don't know, put them all together. And the modern Doctor Who episodes are doing that too. Yeah. So there's too many of the Dalek episodes. So oh well. Anywho, we should get going. It's incredibly warm in here, so we should get comfortable as best we can and get moving. So
it's not warm in here.
It's pretty warm in here. So anywho.
Yeah, the temperature outside is going to be in the upper 70s or low 80s today. We're first week of March.
Yeah.
And, of course, last week we had an ice storm, so...
It's like a high of 42 tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And there's more rain coming. Just as the backyard was starting to dry out.
Yeah.
Anywho. Right. Let's go ahead and jump into Planet of the Daleks. Yeah, that's it. Let's go. Too bad you can't fire up at a 90-degree angle.
You alright, Remy?
I can't stand heights. I daren't look down.
Just keep your eyes closed and
Well, I get that.
You'll be alright. Any idea how far to the surface?
Miles, I should think. Don't forget we started at the lowest level of the city. Should be a long, slow haul.
I hope you've got good wrists. It's too bad we can't fly. Maybe I spoke too soon. Oof.
A rock that size would have cracked her skull.
After this, I think I must take up hot air ballooning.
Oh.
It really is most exhilarating.
People that go up in just a hot air balloon with a basket, they are so insane.
They're going to put a Dalek on an anti-grav pad and shoot him up there.
No. Note to self, invent flying.
Just fried a couple of Daleks.
I guess. What were they doing
Or
there?
at least one.
Whole thing's going! Get on the side!
Oof. It's like Die Hard.
Gloves don't help.
Nah.
The Dalek's only just below him!
Ride the Dalek up!
I don't know many people who
I'll
can
try mine.
hold themselves up with one hand.
Nah.
Oh yeah, put that around your neck.
Yeah, I was about to say.
That's going to leave a mark.
Flush down the drain. Oh, and then it exploded.
There were dozens of other people trained to the same state of readiness as you. You could have backed out.
Why should I? I wanted to come on the first landing. You made sure I was kept out of your group. So when the chance came, I took it.
I think one of us ought to keep watch. I'll take the first stretch.
Yeah, I'm getting out of here.
Your being here might be the very reason the Daleks win.
Alright, man.
Write something here.
Alright.
Without immunity, no living thing can survive the disease. All will be exterminated.
Joe, why on earth didn't you stay in the TARDIS? We'd have been safe there.
Well, Doctor, you didn't look
Have
very
they done that
safe.
before?
Well, I thought
Sort
you
of
were
disease
dying
like
when I
that?
went out to try and find something. We put a stop to their plan to sort of cause a war.
Evidently, that was only part of their plan. To make their conquest easier, perhaps. With an army this size, we now know they intend to invade the galaxy anyway, unless we can stop them.
Okay.
Just us.
And our Thals friends.
So it is a continuation, technically.
Perhaps a female shoulder to cry on might come in handy.
Right.
Give it a try.
Yes.
And luckily it's comfy enough with those shoulder pads she has.
This job doesn't allow for human weakness.
They should have sent a machine, shouldn't they?
I thought they had. I was wrong.
Good. Because the business of command is not for a machine, is it? The moment we forget that we're dealing with people, then we're no better off than the machines that we came here to destroy.
Oh, you don't know about a handshake? Well, you see, it's an old Earth custom. We clasp hands like that, and it shows that we're good friends and that we're pleased to meet one another. Come on.
You know, Jo does kind of have the Thal look going on with her hair.
Almost, yeah. Just needs to be a little blonder.
It's such a throwback getting sets like these. I love that the sound effect of that is just a dude yelling at the top of his lungs.
We've heard them before. We think about that when we get there. If we leave now, we can be there before light.
We'll attack. But this has to be planned. Until it is, we'll wait.
Wait, that's all we've heard from you. Why don't you face it, Taran? Admit what we all know. Be honest. You're afraid. Myra would have taken action by now. He was a real commander.
I mean, I'm more with him. The Daleks are tricky.
Look around you.
Don't these animals sleep?
Purple people eaters.
Take him to the Daleks.
Alrighty.
Have you ever heard that song?
I don't think so.
No. Late 50s, early 60s. Actually, from a guy here in Oklahoma, if I recall correctly. It's the one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater.
I don't think so. You know, clearly, so the Doctor doesn't realize that I think Taran's going to try to kill Weber, but it would be hilarious if it was like, well, you said you were going to stop him, so where is he? And it's like, oh, well, he tripped and bashed his head on a rock, and it was so crazy that my gun fired 9 times into his skull. Poor circumstance. Oh, well. So it is technically a continuation of Frontier in Space, technically. And the whole thing of messaging the Time Lords was just so that they had a designated driver to get to this planet.
And theoretically, it's still a continuation of... Was it Day of the Daleks? What was the one?
Yeah, that's the one with the Ogrons.
Yeah.
The original one.
He mentioned that as well. You know, the last time we saw them, they were doing this, and now they're apparently continuing that as well.
Yeah, I guess so. Which is interesting because neither of those stories were written by Terra Nation. So it's interesting that he would continue that plot line. I'd still wish, it's like, you know, the Thals are great and everything, but we kind of had a thing going with the Draconians and stuff. Like, I kind of wish they were here. Although, maybe with their shoulder pads, they wouldn't fit in a jungle. So, I don't know.
I'm sure that they have different kinds of uniforms that they would wear if they were soldiers.
Maybe. Alrighty, part 5.
Yeah, well, you're right. The Draconians probably some of the best aliens that we've seen in, what is it now? 6 and... This the 11th season? 10th, 11th season?
This is the 10th season.
10th season, yeah.
Yeah. I think actually the Draconians were John Pertwee's favorite aliens, so...
What sort of creatures are they?
Yes. You probably use the fur as a disguise. Yeah. It's like the reverse of the cloak of invisibility in Harry Potter.
But Doctor, there won't be enough wood for the fire.
We'll just have to hope that supply lasts till morning. We've got to keep that fire going at all costs.
I thought he might sing to them.
Naroon, Naroon, Naroon.
Yeah.
I'll try and free Weber.
I'll try and head back for the doctor. If all goes well, I'll meet you there.
Right.
finally figured out where that second guy reminds me of. He's kind of like he looks a little bit like the Commodore in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, a little.
I was just thinking. And third, we've got to generally put an end to their chances of invasion of other planets.
Well, how are we going to do all that?
I haven't the faintest idea.
No.
I'm making this stuff up as I go along.
Well. No, I guess we don't have to worry about Weber anymore.
I will order all Dalek units and Spirodon slave workers assembled here for treatment shortly. Is the bacteria ready for release? All is prepared. The final phase of the operation is to commence immediately.
See, even the Daleks get vaccinated.
We persuaded a couple of Spirodons to part with them.
Well done. Have you got the bombs?
Yes.
There's Weber.
He's dead. I'll tell you about that later. We've got to move.
I didn't do it, I swear.
Patrol right behind us.
We'll need a little time to get ourselves ready. All right?
Wait, Lartep, I'm coming with you.
Joe.
Doctor, I'm tired of being hunted too.
Yes, all right.
You don't think this might be it for Joe, do you?
I noticed this this morning.
Yeah,
seen them
it's
before?
been so long since we've lost a companion.
Yes, and hyper cold.
So it is cold. You think it was hard to see in those?
Spirodon
Yes.
slave workers will surrender or you will be exterminated. I cannot see. Emergency. Alert. Vision impaired.
He always kills them in the dumbest ways. Oh, is that it?
Are they dead?
Yes, the shock of the sudden cold must have killed them straight away.
Still can't see the squid.
You want that?
More gentle persuasion?
You could put it like that.
Poor Spirodons. What was the plan here?
Not exactly sure.
I guess only two... Wow, that one was going fast. Whoa. It's like the reverse of a Jedi. Oh man. Quarantine. I guess the idea was to kill the Daleks with that, since they're not immune yet.
Wait! You are not Spirodons! Emergency! Emergency!
Alrighty. It's...
Well, the plot didn't move forward appreciably, but it was, action-packed.
Yeah.
So, if you can't have one, it's good to have the other.
Yeah. It's... I don't know. It's just kind of strange. Like, well, first off, I was kind of expecting more of a splash from when those Daleks were pushed into the pool, but I get because they needed to keep one of them, so... But yeah, the whole thing with Wester and the bacteria, I mean, I guess because the Daleks can't be immunized yet, that it is stuck in there, I guess. So it's not a terrible... It's a pretty bad plan, but it's not a terrible plan, I guess. But...
And regarding the two Daleks who went into the ice-cold, semi-solid ice water, it would have helped if when they opened the top and he looked in there, he would just have reacted to it. Because he looked in it like, just, my lunch.
I guess maybe the Thals are used to it. It's like, well, this is just what the neighbors look like in the morning, So maybe it is that, but yeah, it is interesting though. 10 years in, we still haven't seen the squid, I don't think. Or have we?
In the very first one, didn't they have like a tentacle or something sticking out from under a coat somewhere.
Yeah.
When they threw it on the floor and then threw something over it.
Yeah, in the first one they imply the squid.
Yeah.
But we haven't just seen the full thing yet.
Yeah.
So, and we probably won't until, like, Genesis of the Dalek rolls around.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I suspect, because we've got a volcano and, you know, all this liquid ice, that somehow or other they're going to figure out a way to get all that ice into the chamber where the Daleks are and literally just freeze them like, you know, Dalek sickles or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Did they kill Rebecca, or is she not in?
She must not be in there.
Oh.
Yeah, alright.
Seems you stopped being a Dalek just in time.
Now, that would have been a good cliffhanger.
No. So, tiny flames for such a big rocket. Thing. Multi-layered cake.
Yes, the old gold Dalek.
Oh, he's also got bigger lights on.
With that, you've got a chance of getting home.
But the Daleks haven't been defeated yet. Not by a long way.
I know all that. But it gives you a chance. It gives you all something to hope for.
Alternatively, you could take them back in the TARDIS, which he does have full control of for once.
Reason for wanting to stay alive.
Come on, Martin. We've still got a long way to go.
I can't see them leaving Joe with the Thals, though.
Yeah.
Granted, we said something kind of similar about Steven, and look where that ended up.
But Stephen and the Doctor were having some real problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to stay behind.
They're trying to get through.
I love anytime they try to get through, it just cuts to them mildly pushing themselves into a door.
The invasion of all solar planets is to begin today. Switch on arsenal heating.
Are they starting with Earth again? That never works.
Now, the other thought, other than the blowing up and allowing the ice to come in, is letting the bacteria loose just as they escape.
Yeah.
You have failed. The Supreme Council does not accept failure.
Ooh, fried his own guy.
Aw. He was probably going to retire, too.
That's what we'll find when we get there.
I'll go first.
You know, Mark Hamill would have fit in among the Thals.
Yeah.
Whoop. Had to do a bit of a Michael Jackson lean to get down there. Are these guys stupid, or...?
They're not fully activated yet.
I guess. Oh!
The ice volcano.
Oh no, all the models. Oh, that must have been fun to film. Just get, like, 10 buckets and a lot of tiny Dalek models.
There it is.
We can get home. Back to Skaro.
It's a bonus I never expected.
Joe.
I'm surprised they're still on Skaro, if the Daleks are still there.
Throughout history, you Thals have always been known as one of the most peace-loving peoples in the galaxy.
I hope we always will be.
Yes, that's what I mean. When you get back to Skaro, you'll all be national heroes. Careful how you tell that story, will you? Don't glamorize it. Don't make war sound like an exciting and thrilling game.
I understand.
Very fond of you, but you see, I've got my own world and my own life to go back to.
Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, that stings.
Come on, run!
They're going to bring back the spitting plants. There we go. I was wondering if they were coming back.
Those bolt hitters.
We have been delayed, not defeated. The Daleks are never defeated.
Oh, why weren't they squirted?
No.
That would have been perfect.
That one.
That one? But Joe, that's Earth.
That's right, Doctor. Home.
Home it is, Miss Grant.
Alrighty.
Well, knowing that the next serial is the last one of the season, I think they're setting up her to go home.
Yeah, so... Which we knew would happen eventually.
Yeah.
Because we do know that at some point, Joe leaves the third Doctor, and the Doctor meets Sarah Jane. So, definitely does seem like that'll be set up for the next one. But that is Planet of the Daleks.
Not their best, but not their worst.
Yeah, it's all right. It's slow and kind of old, old school First Doctor episode, but it's not bad.
No.
We've seen worse Dalek episodes,
worse, yeah.
so and we've also seen goofier Dalek episodes than that as well. So yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's okay.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. Well, the first thing I wrote down was going up the shaft with the makeshift hot air balloon thing, and then throwing the rock down on the Dalek.
Now, one thing that bothered me about that, they were going up under a big sheet of plastic, right?
Yeah.
And yet when they got to the top, you didn't see the plastic.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it was that because it broke before they could get up there, so and maybe that fell down. Why it didn't hit the Dalek, I don't know.
I mean, it's just a minor thing, though, but yeah.
Yeah. But that was interesting. It must always be fun when they get to destroy a Dalek suit. So, or probably in that case it was a model. So yeah, that's always fun. You wrote down a note, though.
All right. So, now the commander, was that Terran?
Yes.
All right. So Terran is theoretically compromised because Rebecca's there, and he says to her, now everything I do, I'm going to have to, strain through the judgment of the fact that I'm trying to protect you. That is something that developed out of the Cold War because they didn't want people who had those kinds of concerns to be the ones making the decisions. And it's most famously in the novel and the movie of the Andromeda Strain, where they trot out this thing called the odd man hypothesis. Whereas in any group that is, whether it's the president, his advisors, whatever, there should always be one person who has no family, no connections or anything, because they will be the ones who will make the decision based on what is best for the greatest number of people. And again, I don't know if you remember, we've seen the movie of the Andromeda Strain. I can't remember if you've read the book or not, but that's what it comes down to. There's a group of 5 people, and at the end, there has to be a decision, spoilers, of whether or not to nuke the facility where they're trying to contain this outer space bacteria called the Andromeda Strain. And it comes down to the guy who is unmarried and has no kids, no nothing, and at the last minute they realize that's the worst thing they could have done, because they learn literally just as he's getting ready to push the button that the bacteria feeds on energy, and if he had exploded a nuclear device, it would have caused the bacteria to literally go worldwide. So if you've never seen the film, great film. Book is even better, and it's by Michael Crichton, who later went on to write the whole Jurassic Park stuff.
Well, it's definitely interesting with Terran here, because I feel like that, I don't want to say like it came out of nowhere, but I mean, at the very least, like, I didn't get any hint of that from like the last episode and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's suddenly here, and it's like, oh, okay, so the two of them are a couple, and that's compromising his decisions and stuff. It's like, okay, interesting. What do you do with that? Not a ton. Like, I felt like there was more conflict with his decisions with Weber than anything else.
Yeah.
So So yeah, it's an interesting idea, but I don't think they really did anything with it. Yeah. So, well, and especially too because they make this whole big thing about Terran's decision making and stuff, and you have the whole thing with Weber where he's too cautious and Weber wants to go in and attack. Now you have this whole thing where he's compromised because Rebecca's there and stuff. But then I feel like he didn't really do much planning or making decisions or anything because that was all left to the Doctor.
Yeah. But that made sense to me because in the first 3 episodes, you may have forgotten this, he's not I mean, although he is the ranking officer, he's not a command officer.
Right.
So when the actual commander died, all these decisions were put on him, and he doesn't have the training or the background to do that.
Yeah. I think there was an episode of The Next Generation where, like, for some reason, like, most of the senior staff was gone, and it's like, well, the ranking commander on the bridge now is Counselor Troy. Yeah. And it's like, well, she has to figure out what to do, and do we blow up the ship and stuff like that. And it's like, Counselor Troy, probably not the person you want making these decisions. Like, there's anyone else, even, like, Crusher would probably be better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is sort of that thing.
I think there's also an episode of Voyager where the last person in the chain of command is the emergency medical hologram.
Yeah.
And that's where he really begins to, improve his artificial intelligence program because he has to make command decisions.
Yeah. So yeah, it is sort of like that. But again, you set up this whole thing about Terran and, making decisions and how he goes with things and his relationship with Rebecca. But then nothing really comes of that, which, to be fair, yes, the Doctor would make the plan because the Doctor is the most experienced there, especially when it comes to the Daleks. But at the same time, it's like, well, you set all that up for them to not really do anything. Like, at least just one moment where Terran shines as a commander.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of weird. And not bad, really, but it's just sort of I suppose a missed opportunity.
Well, again, I don't remember specifically, but there could have been a one-line thing where he says, Doctor, although I am the senior officer here, I will defer to your judgment on this, and essentially transfer power to the Doctor.
Yeah, so, I don't know. It's not bad.
No.
It's not bad. We're just making a point. Let's see. Well, again, we did have the whole thing of this is continuing from Frontier in Space, and it sounds like I'm sure this is not going to be the plot of the next episode is, well, it's 100 years later and they've been thawed out and stuff, but they are working on that, and it's like, oh, we haven't been defeated again, so we'll be back someday. So probably sometime next season, maybe we'll get another follow-up.
But they had 2 great opportunities right at the end. I mean, sure, I know Terry Nation wants the Daleks to continue.
Yeah.
Because he makes money every time you say the word Dalek, apparently.
Yeah.
But the plants spitting the green slime on them, and the bacteria, which if it's allowed to escape will kill them all, either one of those, would have been the perfect thing, like the Daleks will never be defeated, and then suddenly, he's covered in green slime, and he's going, defeated, and he short circuits.
Why did they have the bacteria anyway?
To kill all life on the planet, to make sure that it wouldn't interfere with their plans, I guess.
But they already didn't interfere with their plans, because, like, we had some of the animals that were, like, lurking around, but the most intelligent life was the Spirodons, and they already enslaved them. Like, I get using the bacteria later, now that you have the Thals and the Doctor and Joe, but why they had that to begin with, unless they were just developing that as a sort of like, well, there's this bacteria here that, we can make super deadly and use that to attack other planets. But I didn't think they really said that. It was just sort of a thing they had. So I guess I can give the benefit of the doubt that was the idea. I'm also not entirely sure why they want the invisibility. Like, I get, obviously, tactically, an invisible Dalek is incredibly powerful. But I thought they really made it seem like the the big crux of this episode was that, all right, there's 10,000 Daleks. That is an insane army for them to have. And with that, they can now conquer the galaxy and stuff on their own. But, dude, at that point, do you need the invisibility? It's like, there's like 2 or 3 things going on that kind of go together, but don't really go together.
Yeah.
So
they didn't. I mean, they call them, loose ends, loose threads there.
Yeah.
Because you got the bacteria, you got the whole invisibility thing, and again, you got the plants that could have immobilized them.
It's one of those things that's like, on their own, each of those things would be good tactically for the Daleks, but they don't necessarily go together, So they're just 3 different things that the Daleks have.
Maybe Terry Nation was setting up for a couple of serials using each one of those things.
I would bet you he was still trying to make a Dalek show in the U.S., and I'm hoping this is when he gave up on that. So,
but see, that's to me that's the inherent problem. There are so many other cyborg type stories throughout science fiction from the 50s right up until modern times. The problem with the Daleks is once you've established exactly who they are, they don't change. They're stuck in that 60s mindset, like you said. Even though we're 10 years on here, they don't seem to evolve beyond the limits of their own little mechanical bodies. The fact that you can stymie a Dalek by throwing a rug over it, when it can't see, and so it's just I understand that in the 60s when they first came out, they were they literally swept Great Britain's imagination, but now I think even 11 and 12-year-olds would be able to look at this and go, the Daleks not so much anymore. Until they evolve. And again, I hate to keep bringing up things like the Borg, but any other kind, I mean, like the Terminators even, any kind of cyborg type organisms have to evolve, and if they don't, then they're too easily defeated.
Yeah, because I mean, you brought up the Terminators, which last night we watched Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and immediately it's like, okay, so the first movie, the T-800, that's all great, big, strong Austrian dude. All right, we have to do something different. You can't just send back like another big guy. So they change it, and it's all liquid metal for the T-1000. And every time they do consistently change the Terminators. Well, technically not in Terminator Salvation, but they didn't have to in that one. But like in Terminator 3, it's the TX. In Terminator Genesis, it was something. I think it was John Connor. I don't remember in that one. That one was all over the place. And then even in like Terminator Dark Fate, it's like, well, this one, he's got the skeleton of a T-800, but he has the liquid metal as well with the T-1000, so he's like both of them, so there can be 2 of him, and it's like, cool, that's interesting. Daleks. In season 25, they figured out how to fly. 25. It took 25 years to figure out how to fly. And that is one thing I will give to the modern era, is they figured out how to make them a bit deadlier. And like, because you're right, when you can just put a rug over their eye and then just chuck them into a pool, it's not that scary. I feel like they do it a bit better in modern Doctor Who. The Daleks are a bit faster. You can't easily just go behind them and then reenact a Tom and Jerry cartoon and defeat them. So yeah, and maybe that's limitation of the effects and stuff of the 1970s, but yeah. And I'm also thinking like, okay, a Dalek show, so the show would not be about the Daleks, it would be about the people fighting against the Daleks. We've seen the sort of prototype with Mission to the Unknown, where it's like, well, here's these normal humans and stuff. Here we kind of get a bit of like, you could argue a backdoor pilot with the Thals, and it's like, okay, well, that's kind of interesting. But have you ever noticed that none of them are that interesting when you put them next to the Doctor? Like, I don't see how this Dalek show works without the Doctor, and at that point, it's just Doctor Who, so it doesn't work. Yeah. Like, the Daleks and the humans or whoever fighting them, I don't think they're interesting enough to carry an entire show.
Yeah. Now, there was an 80s American show that took this idea and then did actually take it up a step. It was called Battlestar Galactica, for those of you who remember that. And I have never seen the reboot of it. But the original one, again, you have these, they're called Cylons, who are basically cyborg type things. But again, they are able to evolve and become more human-like. And that's how, that something like that would succeed. Whereas a show just about the Daleks, they would have to be fighting different people, because if they're fighting the same people over and over again, if it's just Daleks land on Earth and it's 7 years of Daleks and people, that's going to go nowhere.
Right. Well, and also just the fact that like the entire show is just a war with the Daleks. Like, I don't know how much you can really do with that, because like one thing, and this is a slight problem in Star Trek, is that they'll never commit to a war, like, ever. They'll do episodes where it's like, well, we have to deal with the Klingons this episode, we have to deal with the Romulans or the Borg or stuff like that, but they never just make a season of war, with the one exception being Star Trek Enterprise.
Well, also Deep Space Nine, they had the Dominion War.
Deep Space Nine probably did it the best, because it was still episodic, but it was like multiple seasons, and even with the Dominion, it was, multiple species that were under their control and stuff like that. So Deep Space Nine probably did it the best. But when you have the Daleks, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can do that with the Daleks, but I'm just trying to think, like, okay, how much are you going to do? Like, I don't know. I just can't see a Dalek show working.
Yeah.
So, let's see. We had the animals, or at least their eyes, which again, you could have. I'm not saying that this is a knock against the episode, but you could have even had that at the end to stop the Daleks, like, or the last remnants of the Daleks that were there. It's like, oh well, the animals are here and they attacked the Daleks for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like, that could have been interesting, because otherwise, we didn't see the animals. They didn't really do anything. They were just sort of there for a minute. So, oh well. And then we covered a lot of this stuff. And again, for what they kind of set up with the bacteria, which I feel like, again, they've done that before. Maybe I'm thinking of, I think it was the end of the Daleks Master Plan, where they had the time bomb or something, whatever that was. Remember, they had something where it was like, it rapidly ages.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, whoever the other person that was with the Doctor and Steven just, like, fell as a skeleton, and it was terrifying. And then, like, the Doctor started to age up as well. I guess that's probably what I'm thinking of. But yeah, but they set up all this about the bacteria, and then it's just like, well, we just have Wester release it, and then only 2 of the Daleks were immune. So
now that would be funny. I mean, you have the 2 Daleks who are locked in there literally forever, and they
stuck.
Just, seriously, 3 Stooges, going about each other, trying to figure out how are we going to survive, because it's just the 2 of us in here forever.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, because they kind of mentioned, like, oh, well, we'll call a Dalek, rescue craft or something like that, but it's like, well, how do you get rid of this bacteria? I mean, maybe they can figure something out. There's also the question of, would the Daleks send a rescue craft for 2 random Daleks? Like, yeah, for the Dalek Supreme, or a Dalek Supreme, apparently. That was another thing. It's like, oh, it's the Dalek Supreme. Like, oh, geez, it's the head of the Daleks. And it's like, well, it's one from the Supreme Council.
Yeah.
Can we have stories about them? That actually kind of sounds interesting. The Council of the Daleks. You already got a title. There you go. So, yeah.
You know where to contact us, writers for New Who.
Yeah. Let's see, who's the next showrunner? Russell T Davies. He's coming back to be the showrunner. We have ideas for the next Doctor. See, you've got, like, very, very interesting, sci-fi ideas. I have the space cows idea, where you herd cows through space, and it makes no sense. So, let's see. I guess at least, if anything was to, follow through in this episode, it's good that it is the molten ice, because that makes the most sense. Now why is it so the molten ice floods that entire place, and it's like, oh well, they've gone back to sleep, and that's it. But when they threw 2 Daleks into that pool, they said, oh well, the shock of the cold, they died instantly. So why wouldn't those 10,000 Daleks die instantly?
They probably did.
Maybe. It's, all the Dalek Supreme was just going to thaw out a bunch of corpses until it's like, oh wow, this was a waste of time
Put
and
new squids in them.
Yeah. I guess you can reuse the shells.
Yeah.
So
oh, we are so weird.
well, but at least they did use the molten ice and stuff, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
And then, for a split second, I was thinking, like, this could be it for Joe. So,
But here's the thing. Whereas with... Who stayed behind in ancient Greece? Was that?
That was Vicky.
All right. They really set that up over several episodes. It wasn't until episode 6 when this guy went, "Hey Joe, you're looking kind of cute," So that was a little too soon. But it does, at least to us, seem like she says, you're nice, but I've got someplace else to go. And then they get back on the TARDIS, and she says, "I just want to go home." She's talking like this is the end for her.
Yeah. Well, and also just because they've gotten their act together since the old days, it makes more sense to do it at the end of the season, because I mean, like, back in the day, it really was just sort of random when a companion would leave, it was never at, like, the beginning or the end of the season. It was just an episode, well, they're gone, Sometimes it'd be in the middle of the episode. I remember Katarina, how she was just ejected into space after 4 episodes. It definitely seems like Joe might be staying behind. The other thing I was thinking of, so in the modern era, they did the Sarah Jane Adventure spinoff to the 10th Doctor's era, and there was actually an episode where they had Joe Grant back in there, and it was really interesting. And so I was sitting here like, okay, I feel like I would have remembered if she said something about staying on Skaro with the Thals, and I was like, well, but if she stayed on Skaro, how did she get back to Earth? Because the Doctor didn't see her again, and I was like, I don't remember.
Now, did they actually get Katie Manning back?
Yes.
So this was, like, 30 years later?
Yes. And they make a joke about that. It was actually the 11th Doctor was also in that episode. And so, from Joe's perspective, the last time she saw the Doctor, it was John Pertwee, and now it's Matt Smith. And they joke about how young Matt Smith looks, and he says, "Oh, well, look at you. Last time I saw you, you were in your early 20s. It looked like someone baked you." So.
Ooh, that's cruel.
Yeah. Maybe someday we'll watch that one. It was a really good episode, too. But yeah, so I was just sitting here like, I don't think she was on an alien planet. It was like, I remember it's like, okay, she was on Earth, back with, she was meeting Sarah Jane. She had a grandson. Her grandson was actually played by Iron Fist, which was interesting. So, back when he was considerably younger, he must have been a teenager back then. But yeah, I was trying to remember. I was like, was that it? I can't remember. So no, I think she will, if she's going to leave, she will be left on Earth. So, with Unit. Maybe that means we'll see Unit next episode. When was the last time we saw them? Let's see. We had Frontier in Space, then Carnival of Monsters, the 3 Doctors. So it hasn't been since the beginning of the season that we saw Unit. I get that they did the whole thing of like, well, originally, I guess it was in season 8, where it's like, well, Nicholas Courtney and all the other Unit people, they were all contracted for the full season. So they kept Unit that entire season. So then, in season 9 and season 10, there's like, well, we'll bring you back, when we want to do that. And it's like, man, I feel like that dynamic was really good, though, with Unit, Like, nothing against, the Doctor and Joe going out to alien worlds, but I don't know, there's something about Unit I really liked.
Yeah.
So,
well, they, we always go back to the original. The Brigadier essentially serves the Ian function.
Yeah.
And Joe is basically Susan. We don't have a real Barbara anymore.
They kind of split Barbara over Benton and Yates, but neither of them are as good fighters as Barbara was.
No.
So,
and Liz, remember we thought Liz Shaw was kind of a new Barbara, but then she was only there for one season. So
right, and then I guess sort of it's not only the dynamic of it's the Dr. Joe and the Brigadier and Yates and Benton, but on top of that, in that season, because it was always the Master as the villain, and that worked really well. Yeah. So. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that while we're probably not going to get too many more unit episodes, we aren't going to get any more Master episodes, at least with Roger Delgado. Yeah. So eventually we will get a different version of the Master. So we will judge them mercilessly when they show up.
Now, we saw that one, didn't we? Because doesn't he come back like he's...
Yeah, he's
kind of melted.
We've seen a couple of them. It was... spoilers, I suppose, if you haven't seen the episodes we've seen, but the Deadly Assassin was when we see the melted Gross Master, and then he was also in the Five Doctors, where and they actually, even though it's a new version of the Master, they really made him look like Roger Delgado. Like, it was the same sort of goatee and the outfit and stuff like that, but obviously a new actor. So and then we also saw the Master in the movie, played by, what was it, Eric Roberts?
Eric Roberts, yeah.
Yeah, so the American Doctor. Interestingly, I think in the last couple of years, they made an audio drama with every surviving Master actor. And so it's just like a whirlwind of craziness. And they did actually get Eric Roberts back, I think. So, and then in the modern era, which you haven't seen any of the modern Masters, but we've had 3 of them so far. We had one going against David Tennant, played by John Sim, and then we had Michelle Gomez and another Iron Fist reference. You remember Iron Fist's friend? How much of Iron Fist do you remember?
Very little.
Yeah. Well, it was his friend from Kunlun, Davos, I think. Is the most recent Master.
Cool.
Yeah. He was also, I think, in an Adventure in Space and Time, he played the director of the episodes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, there's been a lot of Masters, and none of them are consistent. They're all over the place, and nobody knows what time they're from or anything. There was also a small cameo in modern Doctor Who of Derek Jacobi as the Master as well, and then he regenerates. So,
and then of course Jonathan Pryce.
That's true.
Curse of Fatal Death.
Yeah,
who was brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, if they ever need, they could probably get away with using him as the Master now. Yeah. So,
although he's very old now.
Yeah, it might be odd. Depending on who you have as the Doctor. Like, maybe that could work against Capaldi, but yeah. Well, the last thing I wrote down is the whole thing of the Thals and, keeping the peace and everything like that, which was interesting.
A very, very subtle anti-war thing.
Yeah.
It says, look, you won, but don't go overboard with it.
Right. Yeah. There was another, small speech the Doctor gave in these 3. I can't remember what it was about, though. Do you remember? He might have... I don't remember who he was talking to. It might have been Terran, but...
About courage and bravery, yeah.
I think so.
But it may not have been Terran.
No, that was from the first 3 episodes. There was something in these 3, but I can't remember what it was, and I didn't write it down, so... Okay. If you remember what it was in the comments, let us know so that we can try to remember.
We have short-term memory problems.
And we have short-term memory problems. And with that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another Doctor Who playlist that you can go click on. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.